As you can see here, I bought the dip on Bitcoin, and this isn't a system trade. This is a discretionary trade. I don't take very many of these. I've only taken a few of them this year. I'm going to talk about why I did it. Okay, so first we're going to look at our trading system, MTP. And I'm going to put on something closer to the Bitcoin optimized one, which looks like this, where it sold everything around 120,000 and then it took another position, which it sold around 110,000. This is how I traded it actually. I got out in this area, but my average buy is right around 86,000. Why did I do that? One reason is I had unproductive capital. So this is a reason to do things. I'm making a lot of money. I'm making a lot of money through selling trading systems, and I'm trying to flip it into a fuck ton of money through trading. I'm not trying to buy cars. I'm not trying to buy jewelry. I'm not trying to buy a house, even. This is what I do. So I couldn't, I saw an opportunity and I have the money. Okay. Now, from the chart, there's a couple reasons. Part of it is also sentiment, which is just things I've been seeing on social media or people talking about. But one of the things that I like to look at that often marks major bottoms is negative funding. So right now, actually, funding is negative. So you can see, let's pull this up. This little thing in the right corner here, funding is negative, which means I'm actually getting paid interest to hold this long position. Okay, so something about perpetual futures, there's a balancing mechanism where when there's demand for longs, which is most of the time, longs will pay shorts. When there's demand for shorts, which happens rarely, shorts will pay longs. So we're in a time where shorts are paying longs because there's greater demand for longs than shorts. There's greater demand for shorts and longs in the market. Imagine what that means. Your average person is going short. I'll say that again. The average trader, based on volume, is going short. So there's a couple ways I look at it, but it often marks major bottoms. So let's look at it over here. I'm gonna change the visibility here so it's a little bit easier to see. Okay, I'm gonna put it on the daily. So we zoom out. What do you notice? Let's turn this off and I'm gonna make this one bigger. So one thing we can look at is, remember when FTX crashed down here? Look how negative funding was. When the market crashed in May of 2021, I know the dates aren't here. Look how negative funding was. Look how negative funding was in the COVID crash. This was the Silvergate Bank crash. Look how negative funding was. Now, funding doesn't get as skewed anymore. It doesn't get as extreme. But we can see funding went negative in this August crash. It marked a bottom. And then things rallied. Funding got very high. It marked a top. Look at the summer of 2024. Negative funding marked the bottom in the market and caused a rally. Look over here. Negative funding in, when was this? Like April of this year, marked to the bottom of the market and it rallied. Now, once again, we've had negative funding. Will it mark it exactly? No, not necessarily, but I know that there's edge in this. Now, you might ask, you probably won't, but I would ask, why isn't it automated? Why have I not automated this? That's the first thing I want to do. Well, I'm not the developer. I messaged the developer and I'm like, yo, If you haven't already, can you look back into when funding is negative on the daily, which would be the average of 6 4-hour candles, can we buy the dip with size? So I already sent it to my developer, but I looked, another reason is I looked at my trading accounts. Look, last week was negative funding on the weekly. Let's look at that. At the time, my accounts were, I'm looking at my dog here. She's acting silly, trying to catch a fly. Hang on for one moment. Anyways, I was saying, I looked at my bot accounts and they were net short, and I was like, I don't like this positioning. So that was another reason I did it. I did it to hedge sometimes. But now we're looking at funding on the weekly. See how it doesn't happen very often? It only happens basically before, it doesn't mark it exactly, but often marks a major rally. So that was part of it. That's mostly it. That's mostly it, is the funding went negative. But then also on social media and in person, people are like really negative on it. People are talking about saying it's over. There's this extreme fear and greed in the crypto market is actually, I think, the lowest it's been, even lower than FTX. Um, and I still believe in the asset. So if I'm gonna invest, now there's a danger. Also in person, people are like, the Bitcoin price is down in person. I'm worried about it. So this is just a sign like, okay, I should buy. And I bought 4 Bitcoin, which is for me not an insignificant buy. I don't know that price will go straight to all-time high from here. If it did, I would make what? Almost $200,000. I don't know that it would. I also don't know that I would hold for that long. Um, but there's not a problem with the other markets. The other markets are quite healthy. I think it's a cyclical thing of people kind of wanting to get out of Bitcoin, but something that could happen. I'm not saying it will. I'm seeing comments of people wanting to short the next leg up. So considering funding is negative and there's all this short liquidation, if price starts to move up, shorts are going to push it higher, and then FOMO buyers who want to have caught the dip are going to come in and push price higher. So I'm not saying for sure. I think to me there's two likely things that happen here. I don't know that we go straight back to all-time highs, but I think it's incredibly likely we go back to like 100 or 110. The question is, do we V reverse up there, or do we chop around this level, or even take this one? Um, I'm not really here to wait for that. I'm here to buy and see what happens. My stops are pretty wide, and I can feed the position if I need to. There is a danger to buying dips. I'm really not a huge fan of buying dips generally, because if you're buying low prices, the lower price goes, the more attractive the buy is. So I don't think of this as a buying a low price trade. I think of this as a funding trade. It's not possible for funding to stay negative for very long. So if price goes lower but funding is positive, it's not a buy for me. This isn't a price is low, so I buy. And that's a reason that I didn't, I actually followed my system all the way down. I didn't buy until just now, or I bought on Sunday. It's Tuesday. Why did I buy on Sunday and not before? Well, it took until the weekend for funding to go negative. Actually, this entire time down, as price was going down, funding was, I guess it flashed negative for a moment, but funding was generally after this moment, funding was positive, 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 positive. You can see it actually wasn't until Sunday, and that's the moment that I stepped in, looking at my positions. So it is a trade, but also I'm just money managing. I didn't like the positioning of my bots, and there's an opportunity here that has not yet been automated. And this isn't a very time intensive trade. It's not a day trade. I could be in this trade for a couple days, or I could be in it for many weeks or months even. So yeah, you'll probably hear what happens. I don't always make a follow-up video like with the Tron trade. I ended up scratching that one and I could show proof, but I just like wasn't really interested in making content on that anymore. I guess we can look at that right now. But actually I did make a video saying I was getting out, right? Oh wow, it finally would have been stopped out. But part of the reason is the protocol change. I'll just say that if you're paying attention, when they changed the protocol and cut fees by 2/3, it looks like the price could come down by 2/3, which it hasn't. It's actually been relatively stodgy and strong. It's actually outperformed Bitcoin. It's only down 25%. It's one of the strongest performers, but it's been consistently down. I would still wait for it to start making higher highs before I would be interested, but I'm just a little bit less interested in that anyways. So, yeah, happy trading, everybody. Appreciate y'all and much love.